So, you're a system tester, right? You know your application's front end, every click, every button. But what if I told you your real secret weapon isn't on the screen at all? What if it's behind the scenes, sitting in the database? Well, today we're going to unlock that power. Let me just ask you this. When you're testing and you click submit on some form, does that little success message you see on the screen really tell you everything that happened? You know the answer is no, right? Not even close. Relying only on the UI, it's like trying to test a car by just looking at the dashboard. Yeah, you can see the speedometer, but you have no clue what's actually happening in the engine. And this slide, it just nails the point perfectly. Over on the left, the UI is pretty simple. It just says the user is active. Okay, great. But look at the right. That's the database, and that's where the real story is. We can see the exact flag that makes them active. We can see their last login date, even how many failed attempts they've had. You see, the UI gives you a summary. The database gives you the truth. And we're about to learn the language that lets you find that truth. SQL.
So let's just reframe what SQL is for a minute. Please don't think of it as some scary, complicated programming language. For you as a tester, it's a superpower. Seriously. It's like getting a pair of X-ray glasses that let you see right through the shiny user interface and look directly at the data that holds the entire system together.
Because at the end of the day, SQL, structured query language, is just that. It's a language. It's how we have a direct conversation with the database. It lets us ask it questions, tell it to remember things, and most importantly, it lets us verify that it's doing exactly what it's supposed to. No more guesswork. Now, SQL is a whole toolbox. You've got commands for building things, for changing things, but I want you to look at that your focus column. See that? As a tester, 80% of your life, I'm not kidding, is going to be spent right there in DQL, the data query language, using one single powerful command, select. That is our bread and butter. But before we can start asking questions, we kind of need to know how to read the map, right? So a table is basically a spreadsheet. Columns are the headers at the top, and rows are each individual record. But the really important parts are the keys. A primary key is like a unique serial number for every single row. No two are the same. And a foreign key? That's just a column in one table that points to the primary key in another table. That's how we create relationships. All right, enough theory. Let's get our hands dirty. This is where we stop talking about SQL and we actually start using it. We're going to build our very first query piece by piece to ask the database for something very specific that we can then check. Every good question starts with what you want to know, so our query starts with select. Here, we're telling the database, hey, I'm only interested in two things, just two columns. Give me the name and give me the role. See, we're being specific right out of the gate. Okay, next up, we have to tell the database where to look for this stuff. That's what from is for. By adding from employees, we're giving it the exact location. So our query now reads, show me the names and roles and go look for them in the employees table. Super simple, super direct. And here it is. This is the magic for testers, the where clause. This is how you filter everything down to test one specific condition, one piece of business logic. Our question is now complete. It's asking, show me the names and roles of everyone in the employees table where their specific role is tester. This isn't just a query anymore, is it? It's a test. You can now prove with data whether the system is assigning roles correctly and find bugs that are completely invisible on the UI. And that where clause gets even better. You can use tools like and or to check multiple conditions at once, like finding all the testers and who are also marked active. You can use in to check against a whole list of values, like finding users in Mumbai or Pune. And you can even do wildcard searches in text using like. Each of these just opens up a whole new world of tests you can run. Okay, so checking one record at a time is powerful, for sure. But what about the big picture? What about those dashboards and reports? That's where aggregate functions come in. You've got commands like count, sum, and AVG. You know that widget on the admin dashboard that says 1,500 active users? Is that number actually right? With counting, you don't have to guess. You'll know. And to make those functions even more powerful, we can use group by. Take a look at this query. It doesn't just count all the employees. It breaks it down. It counts how many employees are in each department. This lets you validate those summary charts and reports with pinpoint accuracy. All right, buckle up. We're about to get into the skill that really, truly separates a good data-aware tester from a great one. We're talking about joins. This is how we connect the dots between different tables to make sure the relationships that run the whole application are actually working. We're going to start with the most common one you'll ever use, the inner join. And honestly, the analogy on the side is perfect. Just imagine you have two different guest lists for a party. An inner join finds only the people who are on both lists. It's all about finding the records that have a direct match in both tables. So let's see this thing in action. Here's our first table, the employees table. It's got the employee's ID and their name. But wait a minute, it only has a department ID. It doesn't have the actual department name. So where is it? Aha, it's over here in a totally separate departments table. This is really common, and it's actually a smart way to design a database. But for our test, we need to see the employee's name right next to their department's name. And this is how we do it. This query joins those two tables together. Now look closely at that on clause. That's the secret sauce. That's the instruction that tells the database exactly how to connect the dots. It says, match the row from the employees table where the dept ID is the exact same as the ID in the departments table. And boom, there's our result. A single, clean, virtual table that pulls information from both places. Now you can clearly see each employee's name right next to their full department name. You've just successfully validated a core relationship in your application's data. That's huge. So knowing the commands is one thing, but using them safely and effectively in a real test environment, that's a whole other ballgame. In this last section, we're going to cover the practical wisdom you need to go from just writing code to having real confidence in your data validation. Okay, I want everyone to pause and really read this. Burn this sentence into your brain. This is, without a doubt, the single most dangerous mistake you can make with SQL. If you write an update or delete command and you forget the where clause, you won't just change one record, you will change every single record in the table. So please, always double check your where. Here's another pro tip for you. It is so tempting to just type select star to see everything in a table. And look, if you have a tiny test table, whatever, it's fine. But in the real world, with millions of rows, it's slow and it just drowns you in data you don't need. The smarter professional way is to be specific. Ask only for the columns you actually need to validate your test. It's faster, it's cleaner, and it's so much more precise. So let's just boil all this down into a simple, powerful mindset. Number 1, always validate with the database. It is your source of truth. Number 2, take a second to understand the data relationships before you start writing crazy joins. Number 3, when you're just poking around, always limit your results. And finally, keep your queries readable and clean. Your future self, or maybe a coworker, will thank you for it. We've covered a ton of ground here, from basic queries to powerful joins to some really important best practices. You now have the key to unlock the real story happening behind your application's pretty face. So, I guess the only question left is this. The database holds the truth. What are you going to ask it first?